Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
I stood in the shadows of the second-floor balcony, watching through the window as my family pulled up in two luxury SUVs. My brother Marcus stepped out first, laughing. My mother Carol exited next, followed by my sister Amanda and her husband. They were here for the family reunion they specifically banned me from attending. They walked toward the entrance like they owned the place. The concierge David greeted them at the door. My phone buzzed with David's text. "They're here. Should I tell them?" I typed back. "Not yet. 10 years. That's how long it had been since I was part of the Marshall family. 10 years since I went from being the favorite son to being completely erased from their existence." Sometimes I still woke up at 3 in the morning, heart pounding, replaying that day over and over in my mind. I was 23 back then, fresh out of college with a business degree and stars in my eyes. My father Thomas had built a commercial real estate firm from nothing, and I was going to help take it to the next level. That was the plan anyway. Dad had died 2 years earlier, when I was just 21, and the grief still felt raw. He'd left the business to be run by Marcus, who was 5 years older than me and already working as CEO. I came in as junior partner, learning the ropes, trying to fill the impossible shoes my father had left behind. Marcus called an emergency family meeting on a Tuesday afternoon in March. I remember the weather was perfect, sunny and 72 degrees, the kind of California day that makes you believe everything will work out fine. I walked into the conference room at our office in Pasadena, saw Marcus sitting at the head of the table with Mom on his right and Amanda on his left. The family board, they called it. I should have known something was wrong by the way they looked at me. "Sit down, Jimmy," Marcus said. His voice was cold, professional, not the voice of a brother. Saturday. "What's going on?" He slid a folder across the table. "We have a problem. A big one." I opened the folder. Bank statements, transfer records, an offshore account I'd never seen before, my employee identification number stamped on every page. "What is this?" I asked. "That's what I want to know," Marcus said. "That's $250,000 moved from a client escrow account into an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. Your credentials authorized every single transfer." My stomach dropped. "I didn't do this. I've never seen this account before. I don't even have authorization for transfers over $50,000. Your credentials, Jimmy, your access codes, your employee ID." Marcus leaned forward. "Want to explain how that happened? Someone must have stolen my login information. This has to be fraud, someone inside the company or someone who hacked the system." I looked at my mother, desperate for her to believe me. "Mom, you know I would never steal from the company. From Dad's company." She looked away. That's when I knew I'd already lost. "Marcus, we need to investigate this properly," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Get IT involved. Check the server logs. Find out where these transfers actually originated from." Amanda spoke up for the first time. "Jimmy, stop. Just stop lying. The evidence is right there." "I'm not lying." My voice rose. "I swear to you, I never made these transfers. I would never betray Dad's legacy like that." Mom finally spoke, and her words cut deeper than Marcus's accusations ever could. "You always were ambitious, Jimmy. Maybe too ambitious. Your father used to worry about that, whether you'd get impatient, want too much too fast." "That's not fair," I said. "Dad believed in me." "Dad's not here anymore," Marcus said flatly, "and I'm the one who has to clean up this mess. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to resign. Today. Quietly. You'll admit privately to the family what you did, sign away your partnership stake, and we won't press charges. We'll keep this in the family. And if I don't, then I call the police. You'll be arrested for embezzlement, prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, and you'll spend the next 5 to 10 years in prison." Marcus crossed his arms. "Your choice." I looked around the table. Mom wouldn't meet my eyes. Amanda was shaking her head like I disgusted her. Marcus stared at me with something that looked almost like satisfaction. "I need time to think," I said. "You have until 5 o'clock today," Marcus replied. "After that, I'm making the call." I stumbled out of that conference room feeling like I'd been punched in the chest. I called my fiancée Emma, told her what happened, begged her to believe me. There was a long pause on the phone. "Jimmy," she said slowly, "where there's smoke, there's fire. "Are you sure you didn't maybe borrow the money, thinking you'd pay it back?" That's when I realized no one was going to believe me. Not my family, not my fiancé, not anyone. I signed the resignation papers at 4:30 that afternoon. Signed away my stake in the company my father built. Admitted to nothing but agreed to leave quietly. They didn't even give me time to clear out my desk. Security escorted me out of the building like a criminal. Emma broke off our engagement 2 weeks later. She said she couldn't marry someone she didn't trust. Her ring sat in a box on my dresser for months before I finally sold it to pay rent. The family cut me off completely. Phone numbers blocked. Not invited to birthdays, holidays, weddings. My mother sent back the Christmas card I mailed her, unopened. Amanda posted family photos on social media and cropped me out of the old ones. It was like I'd never existed. For 6 months, I lived in a fog. Worked a night security job, slept during the day, avoided everyone I used to know. But something kept nagging at me. The transfers had been too clean, too professional. Someone knew exactly what they were doing. I spent my last $1,000 hiring a private investigator named Frank Chen. It took him 3 months, but he found it. The offshore account traced back to a shell company registered in Delaware. The shell company was owned by a trust. The trust was controlled by Marcus. My own brother had stolen my credentials, created fake transfers, pocketed $250,000, and framed me for it. And by the time I found out, I'd already signed away my rights to the company. I had no legal standing to challenge anything, no way to prove it in court without spending money I didn't have on lawyers I couldn't afford. Frank showed me the evidence in a coffee shop in downtown Los Angeles. I remember staring at the documents, feeling absolutely nothing. Not anger, not betrayal, just emptiness. "What are you going to do?" Frank asked. "Nothing," I said. "There's nothing I can do." That's what I told him. But sitting there with those documents spread across the table, I made myself a promise. One day, somehow, I would make Marcus understand what it felt like to lose everything. Seattle in November is gray and cold and wet, which suited my mood perfectly when I moved there with $800 and a duffel bag of clothes. I was 24 years old and starting over from absolute zero. I worked 3 jobs that first year. Night security guard at an office building, 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., $40 a night cash. Weekend landscaping crew, dawn to dusk both Saturday and Sunday, $75 a day. Weekday barista at a coffee shop near Pike Place Market, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., minimum wage plus tips. I slept 4 hours a night and spent every spare moment at the public library, teaching myself web development and digital marketing through free online courses. The grind was brutal. My hands cracked and bled from the landscaping work. I fell asleep standing up during slow hours at the coffee shop, but I kept going because the alternative was admitting Marcus had won, and I refused to give him that satisfaction. 2 years in, I landed a junior marketing position at a tech startup called CloudServe. The salary was $45,000, which felt like a fortune after 2 years of scraping by. I was good at the work, really good. Digital marketing made sense to me in a way commercial real estate never had. I understood SEO, conversion optimization, customer journey mapping. Within 6 months, I was managing campaigns that brought in actual revenue. The startup went public when I was 27. My small stock option package, granted when I started, suddenly became worth $80,000. I cashed out immediately and used every penny to start my own digital marketing agency. Here's the irony that wasn't lost on me. I specialized in marketing for real estate companies, commercial real estate firms, residential brokerages, property management companies. The very industry my family had banned me from became my specialty, and I was exceptional at it. Turns out getting screwed over by real estate people gives you unique insight into how they think. By the time I turned 30, my agency was billing $2 million annually. I was personally clearing $600,000 a year. I had a penthouse apartment in downtown Los Angeles, drove a Tesla, wore custom suits. I'd built everything myself, and it felt good. But I never forgot about my family. I checked their social media obsessively, tracking their lives from a distance. Marcus had expanded the business into Orange County and San Diego. Amanda had 2 kids and posted endless photos of family gatherings I wasn't invited to. Mom had retired to a condo in Santa Barbara. They looked happy, successful. like they'd never destroyed someone's life and walked away without consequences. Then, about 18 months ago, I was researching potential clients in the luxury real estate market and stumbled across a listing that made my heart stop. A $12 million beachfront estate in Malibu, right on Carbon Beach. 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, infinity pool, private beach access. The listing had been active for 8 months with no offers. I called the listing agent, a woman named Patricia Hayes, and scheduled a viewing. The house was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. Viking appliances in the kitchen. Master suite with a balcony where you could watch the sunset over the water. But what caught my attention was something Patricia mentioned offhand. The owner, Mrs. Patterson, she's 84 years old, Patricia said. Her kids want her in assisted living back in Arizona where they live. She's had this house for 30 years, used to rent it out for family reunions and special events. There's actually a family that's been coming here every summer for the past 15 years for their reunion. Sweet people. They're going to be sad when it sells. My pulse quickened. What family? Oh, I probably shouldn't say. Client confidentiality and all that. She smiled. But they've already inquired about booking next summer, assuming whoever buys it will continue the rental arrangement. I did some digging. Property management records are semi-public if you know where to look. The family that had been renting this house every summer was the Marshall family. My family. This was their reunion house. The place where they gathered every year to celebrate being a family that I was no longer part of. The wheels started turning in my mind. Mrs. Patterson wanted $12 million, but the market was soft. Luxury properties were sitting unsold for months. I offered $10.5 million, all cash, 30-day close. She accepted within 24 hours. 6 months ago, I became the owner of the Malibu beach house where my family held their reunions. And here's the beautiful part. I kept everything exactly as it was. Same property management company, same booking system, same concierge service. When my family's booking came through for this summer, I approved it personally. They had no idea the landlord had changed. I spent months planning this moment. Tracked their social media, watched their posts about the big reunion they were planning. Marcus had just been promoted to regional director, expanding the family business into Nevada and Arizona. This reunion was supposed to be his victory lap, his moment of triumph, and it was going to happen in my house. I hired David, the concierge, 3 months ago, explained the situation carefully, made sure he understood what I needed. He was a theater major in college, loved the drama of it all. We rehearsed how it would go down. They'd arrive, sign the new guest agreements that clearly listed me as the owner, settle in, and then I'd show up. The plan was perfect, elegant, poetic even. They'd banned me from their reunion, and I'd let them walk right into my home without knowing it. What I didn't know, couldn't have predicted, was that Marcus had been tracking me too, that he'd found out about the purchase, that he'd already started plotting how to take it away from me. But I'd find that out soon enough. 3 months before the reunion, I went to a wedding. My cousin Rachel, my uncle's daughter, had tracked me down through LinkedIn and sent me an email. She'd only been 15 when I left, didn't really understand what had happened, just knew that her favorite cousin had disappeared one day and nobody would talk about it. "I'm getting married," her email said. "Small wedding in Santa Barbara, just family and close friends. I don't care what the rest of the family thinks. I want you there. Please come." I stared at that email for 3 days before responding. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to maintain the clean break I'd made. But Rachel had always been sweet, innocent, caught in the crossfire of adult drama she didn't create. I RSVP'd yes. The wedding was at a small vineyard in the Santa Barbara Hills, 75 guests, golden hour light filtering through the oak trees. I wore my best suit, arrived alone, kept to myself in the back during the ceremony. Rachel saw me as she walked down the aisle and her whole face lit up. That smile made the risk worth it. The trouble started during cocktail hour. I was standing by the bar, nursing a whiskey, when I felt someone's eyes on me. I turned and saw Marcus across the patio, his face going red, his jaw clenching. He said something to Amanda, and they both started walking toward me with purpose. "What the hell are you doing here?" Marcus's voice carried across the patio. Other guests turned to look. "You're not welcome. You're a thief, and you don't belong in this family." I kept my voice calm. "Rachel invited me. It's her wedding. I'm not here to cause problems. You are the problem, Amanda hissed. You've always been the problem. My mother appeared then, drawn by the commotion. She looked older than I remembered, thinner, her hair more gray than brown now. For a second, I thought I saw something in her eyes. Regret, maybe, or just sadness. But then her face hardened. Marcus is right, she said quietly. You need to leave. You made your choices 10 years ago, and you have to live with them. People were staring now. The bride's family, the groom's family, everyone with their phones out capturing the scene. I saw Rachel standing by the cake table, her hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, I said to her across the patio. Then I turned and walked away. I made it to my car before Marcus caught up with me, Amanda right behind him. Just so we're clear, Marcus said loudly, making sure I heard every word. The family reunion this summer? You're banned. Officially. If you show up, we'll have you arrested for trespassing. Amanda added, You're not family anymore, Jimmy. You haven't been for 10 years. Stop pretending you belong with us. I got in my car without responding and drove the 3 hours back to Los Angeles in complete silence. Somewhere around Thousand Oaks, my phone buzzed with a text notification. I glanced at it at a red light. It was from a group text chain I didn't even know I was still on, some old family thread from years ago that nobody had bothered to remove me from. Marcus had written, For anyone who didn't hear, Jimmy is not invited to the reunion this summer. He's not part of this family. Anyone who brings him will be asked to leave. 16 people responded with thumbs up and heart emojis. I sat in my apartment that night, poured myself 3 fingers of scotch, and looked at the deed to the Malibu house sitting on my desk. They'd banned me from their reunion. Perfect. I wouldn't tell them whose house they'd be staying in. I'd let them enjoy themselves for a day or two, let them get comfortable, and then I'd show up, watch their faces when they realized whose hospitality they'd been enjoying. Over the next 3 months, I coordinated everything with David, explained exactly how I wanted it to go. He was enthusiastic, professional, perfect for the role. We installed additional security cameras in the common areas so I could watch remotely. I planned to arrive Saturday evening, after they'd settled in, had a few drinks, gotten comfortable in my house. Then, 1 week before the reunion, a courier knocked on my door at 7 a.m. on a Monday morning. Sign here, he said, handing me an envelope. It was a certified letter from a law firm in Century City. Morrison, Chang, and Associates. I opened it standing in my doorway, still in my pajamas, coffee getting cold on the counter. The letter stated that Marcus, acting as executor of my father's estate, was filing a claim against the Malibu property. The claim alleged that I had purchased the house using funds derived from assets stolen from the Marshall family business, and that therefore the property should be considered part of my late father's estate. Marcus demanded I sign over the deed immediately or face a lawsuit. The letter went on. It stated that as executor, Marcus would allow the scheduled family reunion to proceed as planned, but afterward would take possession of the property. There was a settlement offer attached. I could sign the house over now, Marcus would pay me $2 million, and we'd both walk away clean. My hands shook as I read it. This was insane. I'd bought the house with money I earned myself, years after leaving the company, with no connection whatsoever to my father's estate. But Marcus was trying to take even this from me. I called a real estate attorney I knew, a guy named Brian Shepard who I'd done some marketing work for. He agreed to review the letter and meet me that afternoon. This is frivolous, Brian said, sitting across from me at a coffee shop in Santa Monica. You earned this money independently, years after leaving the company. There's no legal basis for this claim. So I can fight it? Yes, but it'll take time. Court motions, discovery, depositions could take 6 to 9 months to fully resolve, and it'll cost you probably $50,000 to $70,000 in legal fees. He leaned back. But you'll win, eventually. What about the reunion? They're coming this weekend. Brian shrugged. Let them come. The property is legally yours until a court says otherwise, which won't happen anytime soon. They can have their reunion, and then you fight this properly in court. I paid Brian a $5,000 retainer and left feeling slightly better. Marcus was trying to intimidate me, but I had the law on my side. I just had to be patient. The reunion weekend arrived. I watched from my office in downtown LA as the 2 SUVs pulled up to my house at 11 a.m. sharp on Friday morning. Watched Marcus step out, stretching his arms, smiling like he owned the place. Watched my mother emerge in a sun hat and sunglasses. Watched Amanda's kids run toward the beach, excited and happy. David greeted them at the door, professional and courteous. I watched through the security camera feed as he checked them in. "And you are?" David asked pleasantly. "The Marshall family," Marcus said with that entitled edge to his voice. "We've been coming here for 15 years. Our reservation should be under Marcus Marshall." David checked his tablet. "Ah, yes, Mr. Marshall. Welcome. I should mention the property recently changed ownership. Just a formality, but I'll need everyone to sign the updated guest agreement." He handed them the papers. I held my breath, watching through the camera. None of them read it carefully. They just scrawled their signatures, eager to get inside and start their vacation. The guest agreement clearly stated the owner's name, James Marshall, my legal name, right there in black and white, and they'd all signed it without even noticing. They spread out through the house, claiming bedrooms, opening champagne, blasting music on the deck. I watched them laughing, celebrating, completely oblivious. My plan was to arrive that evening, walk through the door, and watch their faces fall when they realized whose house they were partying in. But at 2 p.m., something on the security feed caught my attention. Marcus stepped out onto the deck with his phone, away from the others. I turned up the audio. "Don't worry," Marcus was saying to someone on the phone. "The lawsuit is just insurance. My guy inside already took care of the real problem." My guy inside? What did that mean? I called Brian immediately. "We need to talk. Now." "Actually, I've been meaning to call you," Brian said, and something in his voice made my stomach drop. "I reviewed your purchase documents more carefully. There may be some irregularities." "What irregularities?" "I'd rather discuss this in person. Can you meet me at the Coffee Bean on Wilshire in an hour?" I drove there in 20 minutes, my mind racing. When I walked in, Brian was already sitting in the back corner, looking uncomfortable. "What's going on?" I demanded. He sighed. "I've been in contact with Marcus's legal team." "You what?" "Jimmy, listen. I think your purchase of this property was ethically questionable. You bought it specifically to embarrass your family, to get revenge. That's not a good look in court. You're my lawyer. You're supposed to be on my side. I'm supposed to serve justice." Brian pulled out some papers. "I've filed a motion with the court placing a voluntary cloud on the title. It essentially freezes the property until we can sort out the ownership questions." The room seemed to tilt. "You sabotaged my case?" "I ensured that the truth would come out." He stood up. "Marcus approached me 2 weeks ago, offered me a $50,000 consulting fee to review your documents and find any issues. I found plenty. Your motivations for buying the property, the timing, the fact that you were planning some kind of revenge scenario, it all looks bad. You're supposed to be my attorney." "Not anymore. I'm withdrawing from representation." He pushed the papers across the table. "My advice? Take Marcus's settlement offer. $2 million, walk away and forget this revenge fantasy. Because if you fight this, you'll lose everything." I made sure of that. He left me sitting there alone. I stared at my hands, trying to process what had just happened. My own lawyer had betrayed me, had taken money from Marcus to sabotage my legal position. And now my family was throwing a party in my house while I sat powerless to stop it. The worst part? They didn't even know. They had no idea they were winning. I spent Friday evening sitting in my apartment, watching the security feeds on my laptop. My family barbecued on the deck, jumped in the pool, played music, drank expensive wine. They looked happy. They looked like a family. Saturday morning I made a decision. Lawyer or no lawyer, title cloud or no title cloud, I was going to that house. They needed to know whose property they were enjoying. Maybe it wouldn't change anything legally, but at least I'd have the satisfaction of seeing their faces. I drove to Malibu around 2 p.m., parked down the street, walked up to the front door. David saw me coming and gave me a subtle nod. I rang the doorbell. David opened it formally, like he'd never seen me before. "Can I help you, sir?" "I'm here to see the Marshall family." My voice came out steadier than I felt. He stepped aside, and I walked into my own house. The family was gathered in the great room, lunch spread out on the dining table. They all froze when they saw me. For 3 seconds, nobody moved, nobody breathed. Then Marcus started laughing. Actually laughing, like this was the funniest thing he'd ever seen. "Oh, this is perfect," he said, wiping his eyes. "Jimmy, come to crash the party?" I found my voice. "This is my house. I own this property. You're guests here, and you weren't invited." Amanda burst out laughing too. "Your house? Is this a joke?" I pulled out my phone, showed them the deed on my email, the closing documents. "I bought this property 6 months ago. I'm the owner. You've been partying in my house all weekend." Marcus's smile didn't falter. "Oh, we know you bought it, Jimmy, with stolen money, from Dad's company. That makes it family property, which means it's mine as executor of Dad's estate." He reached over to a briefcase on the counter, pulled out papers. "I have a court order being filed Monday morning. By Tuesday, there'll be a freeze on this property. By the end of the month, it'll be transferred to the family trust." My mouth went dry. "You can't do that. I already am doing that." Marcus's smile was cold now. "Your lawyer was very helpful in explaining all the legal problems with your purchase. Funny how that worked out. Brian was working for you. Brian was working for justice. He realized you bought this house for the wrong reasons, and he did the right thing." Marcus poured himself more wine, casual as anything. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to let us finish our reunion weekend. Then you're going to sign the settlement offer my lawyers sent, or I will drag you through court for years, and you'll end up with nothing but legal bills. Your choice." Amanda had her phone out, filming me. "This is gold," she muttered, then raised her voice. "When the black sheep shows up uninvited." I saw her post it to Instagram in real time. My humiliation broadcast to her 1,000 followers. My mother spoke quietly from the couch. "Jimmy, why can't you just accept that you're not part of this family anymore? Why do you keep trying?" Something in her voice broke me. Not anger, just exhaustion. Like I was a problem she was tired of dealing with. I felt tears starting to come, and I refused to cry in front of them. I turned toward the door. That's when I heard car doors slamming outside. Headlights swept across the windows. More family members arriving. I walked toward the exit, desperate to get out before anyone else saw me like this. But I wasn't fast enough. The front door opened, and a couple walked in, laughing about something, not noticing me at first. The woman turned around and my blood turned to ice. Emma. My ex-fiancée from 10 years ago. She was holding hands with someone. They stepped into the light and I saw his face. It was Marcus. Emma was with Marcus. She was wearing a wedding ring. Marcus put his arm around her waist, pulled her close, looked directly at me with satisfaction in his eyes. "Hi, Jimmy," Emma said softly. Surprise. "Marcus and I have been married for 8 years now. I guess no one thought to mention it to you." 8 years. I did the math in my head. They'd gotten together 2 years after she broke up with me. Maybe even before. "Emma helped me realize a lot of things after you left," Marcus said. "We had a lot in common. She's VP of operations now. Really turned the company around." Emma looked at me with something like pity. "I'm sorry you found out this way. But you have to understand, Marcus is successful, stable, trustworthy, everything you couldn't be." There were 15 people watching this now. Some had their phones out, recording, photographing. My humiliation preserved for posterity. I walked past them without saying a word, got in my car, drove away with their laughter echoing behind me. Back in my apartment, I poured whiskey and sat in the dark. My brother had framed me, stolen my company, stolen my fiancée, and was now stealing my house. And I was powerless to stop any of it. At 11 p.m., my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Mr. Marshall?" It was David, the concierge, calling from his personal phone. "I know this isn't my place, but I thought you should know something. Your brother and his wife had a conversation on the deck tonight after you left. I overheard it. And I recorded it, on my phone. I think you need to hear this." He played it for me over the phone. Emma's voice clear as day. "Do you think he'll sign the settlement?" Marcus laughing. "Of course he will. He has no choice. Just like 10 years ago when I framed him, he has no choice." "Emma, I still can't believe you pulled that off. Stealing his credentials, moving that money, making everyone think it was him." Marcus. "It was easier than I thought. Dad always liked Jimmy more. After Dad died, I had to get rid of him, and then I got you too. Worked out perfectly." The recording ended. I sat there in silence, holding the phone. "Mr. Marshall," David said, "are you still there?" "Send me that file," I whispered. Right now. My phone buzzed 30 seconds later with the audio file. I played it again, and again, and again. Marcus confessing to the original crime, admitting he framed me, all captured on audio. "There's something else," David said. "I was cleaning up after dinner tonight, and I found a laptop bag Marcus left in the study. It was open. I saw documents about your family business. Financial records. Numbers that looked wrong." "What kind of numbers?" "I don't know exactly. I'm not an accountant. But there were spreadsheets with 2 sets of books, emails about hiding transfers. It looked bad." My heart started pounding. "Is the bag still there?" "Yes. Everyone's asleep now. If you wanted to come look at it, now would be the time." This was illegal, potentially criminal. Breaking into my own house to steal documents from my brother's personal belongings. Any lawyer would tell me not to do it. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, I said. I drove to Malibu doing 80 miles per hour, hands gripping the steering wheel. David let me in through the service entrance at midnight. The house was dark, quiet except for the sound of the ocean. We crept to the study. The laptop bag was exactly where David said, sitting on the desk, still open. Inside was Marcus's personal laptop and a thick folder of documents. I pulled out my phone and started photographing everything. Tax returns showing the family business grossing $6 million annually. Bank statements for accounts I'd never seen before. Transfer records moving money through shell companies with names like Pacific Holdings LLC and Western Investment Group. The laptop was password protected, but Marcus had left it open and sleeping. I woke it up and started going through files. There were spreadsheets. Lots of spreadsheets. One titled Personal Do Not Share had 10 years of transactions listed. Money moving from the company operating account into offshore accounts. Small amounts at first, $10,000 here, $15,000 there. Then larger, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 at a time. Over 10 years, the total was $3.2 million. Marcus had been systematically embezzling from the family business for a decade. The same business where he'd accused me of stealing $250,000. He'd stolen more than 10 times that amount. There were emails between Marcus and his accountant discussing how to hide the transfers. Emails with Emma showing she knew about everything had helped create false invoices to justify the missing money. A digital ledger with every transaction documented. I photographed everything. Every spreadsheet, every email, every bank statement. My phone storage filled up. I deleted old photos to make room for more. 45 minutes of photographing evidence. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Someone going to the bathroom. I froze, holding my breath. David grabbed my arm. We waited in complete silence for 2 minutes until we heard the footsteps return, a door close. We slipped out the service entrance at 1:15 a.m. I drove home with hundreds of photos on my phone, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. I didn't sleep. Spent the entire night organizing the evidence, creating a timeline, documenting every theft. By 7 a.m., I had a complete picture of Marcus's fraud. At 7:30, I called an attorney I'd done marketing work for 2 years ago. Her name was Helen Vasquez, and she was a partner at one of the most prestigious litigation firms in Los Angeles. She'd always told me if I ever needed legal help, to call her directly. "Helen, it's Jimmy Marshall. I need your help. It's urgent. Come to my office. Now." I was sitting across from her desk by 8:30. She spent 3 hours reviewing every photo, every document, making notes. Finally, she looked up. "This is enough. This is more than enough. Your brother is going down and you're getting your house back. But we need to move fast. We file emergency motions Monday morning, present this evidence to the court, request immediate injunctive relief. What about the title cloud Brian file? We'll get it removed. Once the judge sees that Marcus fabricated the entire claim using a corrupt attorney, the cloud disappears." She leaned forward. "But Jimmy, there's something else here. Your brother has been stealing from the business. That means your mother and sister are victims too. They own minority shares in the company. He's been defrauding them as well." I hadn't thought about that. "So what do I do?" "You could use this evidence to destroy your whole family's relationship with Marcus. Blow up everything. Get your revenge." Helen paused. "Or you could use it to expose the truth and maybe, just maybe, repair something that's been broken for 10 years. Your choice." I thought about my mother's face at the wedding, about Amanda filming my humiliation, about Rachel crying at her own reception because of family drama. "I want the truth to come out," I said. "All of it." Helen smiled. "Good. Then let's go to war." We file Monday morning, 8 a.m. Emergency hearing. Full evidence presentation. Are you ready? For the first time in 10 years, I felt certain. Yes. Sunday was the longest day of my life. I stayed away from the beach house, let my family finish their reunion in peace. Watched the security feeds as they packed up, loaded their cars, took final photos on the deck. Marcus looked relaxed, happy. He'd won as far as he knew. He had the company, the girl, and soon he'd have my house too. Everything had worked out perfectly for him. But Monday morning everything changed. Helen filed the emergency motion at 8 a.m. sharp. Her filing included the audio recording of Marcus confessing to framing me. It included hundreds of pages of financial documents proving 10 years of embezzlement. It included emails showing Emma's involvement. It included bank records tracing the offshore accounts. The filing requested immediate injunctive relief, removal of the title cloud Brian had placed, and referral to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation. We got lucky with the judge assignment. Judge Patricia Morrison, known for not tolerating fraud or corruption. She reviewed the filing and scheduled an emergency hearing for 2 p.m. that same day. Marcus received notice at 11 a.m. He was having brunch with Emma at some restaurant in Beverly Hills when the process server found him. Helen made sure of that. Maximum public embarrassment. I arrived at the courthouse at 1:30, dressed in my best suit. Helen beside me carrying 3 banker's boxes of evidence. Marcus showed up at 1:50 with his attorney and Brian Shepard. Emma was with him, looking nervous. When Marcus saw Helen, his face went pale. He knew who she was. Everyone in Los Angeles legal circles knew Helen Vasquez. We filed into Judge Morrison's courtroom at 2 p.m. exactly. The judge was a woman in her early 60s, gray hair pulled back, sharp eyes that missed nothing. "We're here on an emergency motion filed by James Marshall," she said. "Counsel, present your case." Helen stood. For the next 45 minutes, she methodically destroyed Marcus. She played the audio recording. Marcus's voice filled the courtroom. "Just like 10 years ago when I framed him, he has no choice. It was easier than I thought. Dad always liked Jimmy more. After Dad died, I had to get rid of him." I watched Marcus's attorney close his eyes in despair. Helen presented the financial documents, showed the spreadsheets with 2 sets of books, showed the offshore accounts, showed the shell companies, showed the emails between Marcus and his accountant discussing how to hide the transfers. She showed the timeline. $3.2 million stolen over 10 years. She showed the emails between Marcus and Emma, proving her involvement, proving they'd been working together to defraud the company. She showed that Carol and Amanda owned minority shares in the company, making them victims of Marcus's fraud. Marcus's attorney tried to object, tried to claim the evidence was obtained illegally. Judge Morrison shut him down. The evidence was obtained from the plaintiff's own property during a period when the defendants were guests there. No expectation of privacy applies. Objection overruled. Then Helen turned to Brian Shepard, my former attorney. "Your Honor, I'd like to address the matter of Mr. Shepard's conduct. He was hired by my client to represent him in this property dispute. Instead, he accepted $50,000 from the opposing party to sabotage my client's case. He filed a fraudulent title cloud based on false claims. He violated every ethical obligation an attorney has to their client." Brian's face went red. "I was acting in service of the truth." "You were acting in service of a paycheck," Helen shot back, "from a man who's now been proven to be a serial fraudster." Judge Morrison looked at Brian with disgust. "Mr. Shepard, you're held in contempt of court. Bailiff, take him into custody. I'm also referring this matter to the State Bar for immediate disciplinary proceedings." 2 bailiffs escorted Brian out of the courtroom. He didn't look at me as he passed. Judge Morrison turned back to Marcus. "Mr. Marshall, I've reviewed the evidence presented today. The audio recording of your confession to framing your brother 10 years ago. The extensive documentation of systematic embezzlement from a family business. The evidence of your attempt to fraudulently seize property through false legal claims." Marcus started to speak. "Your Honor, I can explain." "You'll have your chance to explain to the district attorney." She signed several documents. "I'm issuing the following orders. First, the title cloud on the Malibu property is removed immediately. James Marshall has clear and uncontested ownership. Second, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order freezing all business accounts of Marshall Commercial Real Estate pending further investigation. Third, I'm referring this entire matter to the District Attorney's Office for criminal prosecution. And fourth, Mr. Marcus Marshall, you're ordered to have no contact with your brother or the Malibu property. She slammed her gavel. This hearing is concluded. Marcus stood there in shock. His attorney was frantically making notes. Emma had tears running down her face. I walked out of that courtroom feeling like I could breathe for the first time in 10 years. In the hallway, I saw my mother and Amanda sitting on a bench. They'd been subpoenaed to appear after Helen notified them about the evidence of fraud. They'd sat through the entire hearing. My mother looked 10 years older than she had on Friday. Amanda was crying quietly. Carol stood up slowly, walked over to me. Her voice was barely a whisper. I should have believed you. 10 years ago, I should have listened to you. I'm so sorry, Jimmy. Amanda came over too, her mascara running. He lied to all of us, for 10 years, about everything. I didn't know what to say. Sorry seemed too small. I forgive you seemed too easy. I know, was all I managed. Emma pushed past us without speaking, her lawyer close behind. I watched her go, feeling nothing. No anger, no satisfaction. Just emptiness where she used to be. Marcus approached me in the parking lot, his attorney trying to stop him. He looked desperate now, the confidence completely gone. Jimmy, please, we can work this out. I'll sign over my shares of the company, I'll pay back the money, just don't press charges. I looked at him for a long moment. My brother. The person I'd looked up to my entire childhood. The person who'd destroyed my life and stolen 10 years from me. I forgave you a long time ago for what you did to me, I said quietly. I had to, or the anger would have eaten me alive. But what you did to Mom and Amanda, stealing from them too, that's on you. That's between you and them. His attorney pulled him away. I got in my car and drove home. 3 days later, the district attorney filed criminal charges against Marcus. Embezzlement, fraud, conspiracy. Emma was charged as an accomplice. The family business went into emergency receivership. An emergency board meeting was called. My mother called me on Thursday afternoon. Jimmy, I know I have no right to ask this, but we need help. The company is falling apart. The accountants found even more discrepancies. We might lose everything Dad built. I drove to Pasadena that evening for the first time in 10 years, walked into the conference room where Marcus had accused me of theft. Carol was there, Amanda, 2 of the company's oldest employees, and the court-appointed receiver. Mr. Marshall, the receiver said, I've reviewed your father's original partnership agreement. You signed away your shares under duress based on false accusations. A judge would likely find that agreement invalid, which means you still own 30% of this company. I looked around the table. At the business my father had built from nothing. At the family that had cut me out. What do you need? I asked. We worked through the night, going through the books, tracing Marcus's fraud, figuring out what was real and what was stolen. By dawn, we had a plan to stabilize the company. The next week, the board voted to restore my ownership stake. They offered to make me CEO. I declined. I built a life without this company, I told them. I don't need it anymore, but I'll help you rebuild it. For Dad. The settlement came through 2 weeks later. Marcus pleaded guilty to reduced charges in exchange for repaying the stolen money and avoiding jail time. He was sentenced to 5 years probation and banned from managing any business in California. Emma divorced him within a month. The family business stabilized. Amanda took over as CEO. She was good at it, better than Marcus had ever been. And me? I went back to my life, my agency, my clients, my penthouse apartment. But now I also had something I'd been missing for 10 years. I had my family back, or at least I was starting to. The weeks after the trial were strange. My phone rang constantly with family members reaching out. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in a decade. Aunts and uncles who'd believed Marcus's lies. Even Rachel, who sent me a long text apologizing for the wedding disaster, saying she wished she'd fought harder for me. I responded to some, ignored others. Forgiveness is complicated, and I wasn't ready to pretend everything was fine. But I did accept when my mother invited me to lunch. We met at a small restaurant in Pasadena, just the 2 of us. She looked nervous, playing with her napkin, ordering tea she didn't drink. I don't know how to apologize for 10 years, she said finally. I don't know what words could possibly be enough. They can't be, I said honestly, but I appreciate you trying. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Marcus was so convincing. After your father died, I was lost. I didn't know how to run the business, didn't know how to be the parent holding everything together. Marcus stepped up. He took care of everything. And when he said you'd stolen money, I wanted to believe it couldn't be true, but he had all that evidence. And I was so scared of losing the company too, of losing everything Tom built. So you threw me away instead. Yes, she didn't make excuses. I chose wrong. I was a coward. And you paid the price for my cowardice. We sat in silence for a moment. Do you know what the worst part was? I asked. Not the accusation, not even losing the company. It was that you all stopped believing I was a good person. You decided I was capable of betrayal, of theft, of destroying Dad's legacy. That's what hurt. That you thought I could do that. I know, she whispered. And I'll never forgive myself for it. I didn't tell her she was forgiven. I wasn't there yet. But I did reach across the table and hold her hand for a minute. It was a start. Amanda reached out next, asking if I'd come to her daughter's birthday party. I said yes. Spent an awkward afternoon making small talk with family members who didn't know how to act around me. But her kids were sweet, and they remembered Uncle Jimmy from photos, and that felt good. The business recovered slowly. The receivership ended. Amanda proved herself as CEO, bringing in new clients, modernizing operations. She asked for my advice sometimes, and I gave it. We were learning to be siblings again, carefully, awkwardly, one conversation at a time. But I kept thinking about the beach house. It sat empty after the disaster reunion, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. Sell it? Rent it out? The whole point had been revenge, and now that I'd gotten it, the house felt hollow. Then, about 6 weeks after the trial, my mother called with an idea. I know this might sound crazy, she said, but what if we did a real reunion at the beach house? The family, the people who actually want to be there. Not Marcus, not Emma, just us. Would you consider it? I thought about saying no. The house had too many bad memories now. But then I thought about what Helen had asked me. Did I want to destroy everything, or did I want to repair something? Okay, I said. Let's try. 2 weeks later, 15 people gathered at the Malibu house. Carol, Amanda and her family, Rachel and her new husband, a few aunts and uncles, some cousins, people who'd reached out to apologize, who'd admitted they were wrong. I grilled burgers on the deck. We swam in the pool. The kids played on the beach. Amanda's daughter asked me to help her build a sandcastle, and we spent an hour creating an elaborate structure with towers and a moat. That evening, as the sun set over the Pacific, Carol stood up and cleared her throat. I want to say something, she said. This house, this beautiful place, belongs to Jimmy. He bought it with money he earned himself, through hard work and talent and determination. Everything he accomplished, he did without our help, without our support, in spite of us really. Everyone was quiet, listening. I'm ashamed that we weren't there for him, that we believed lies instead of trusting the person we knew, that we let 10 years go by without fighting to find the truth. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face. Jimmy, you didn't need us to succeed, but I hope you'll let us be part of your life anyway. Not because you need us, but because we need you. Amanda stood up next. I was awful to you. At the wedding, at the house, for years before that. I followed Marcus blindly because it was easier than thinking for myself. I'm sorry. And I'm grateful you're giving us another chance. Others spoke too, apologizing, thanking me, acknowledging what had happened. I didn't have a speech prepared. I just said what I felt. For 10 years, I thought I needed you to admit you were wrong. I thought I needed validation, vindication, revenge, but I built a good life without any of that. I'm proud of who I became. I looked around at their faces. I'm not going to pretend the last decade didn't happen. You hurt me, deeply, and that doesn't just disappear. But I'm willing to try to move forward. If you're willing to put in the work. Rachel raised her glass. To moving forward. We all drank to that. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, I stood on the beach alone, listening to the waves. My phone buzzed with a text from David, the concierge. Saw the news about the trial. Glad justice was served. You're a good man, Mr. Marshall. I smiled and typed back. Thanks for everything. You helped make it possible. Another text came through. This one from Helen. Proud of you. You could have destroyed them, but you chose grace instead. That takes real strength. I looked up at the house, lights glowing warm against the dark sky. My family was inside, sleeping in rooms I'd paid for, in a house I'd built with my own success. For 10 years, I'd imagined this moment. The revenge, the vindication, the satisfaction of watching them realize they were wrong. But now that I was here, revenge felt empty. What mattered was that I'd built a life I was proud of, that I'd proven I could succeed without them, that I'd become someone my father would be proud of. The rest was just details. I walked back inside, locked the door behind me, and went to sleep in my own house, surrounded by the family I'd thought I'd lost forever. And for the first time in 10 years, I slept without dreaming about what Marcus had taken from me. 3 months have passed since that reunion. Life hasn't been perfect, but it's been better than I expected. Marcus moved to Arizona, took a job managing a strip mall. I heard he and Emma tried to reconcile, but it didn't work. Last I heard, she moved to Seattle. I don't spend much time thinking about either of them anymore. The family business is thriving under Amanda's leadership. She's tripled the client base, expanded into commercial property management, and started a non-profit division helping low-income families find affordable housing. Dad would be proud of what she's building. My mother and I have lunch once a month. We're not close the way we used to be, and maybe we never will be. But we're trying, and that's something. I still run my marketing agency. Still live in my downtown apartment. Still drive too fast and work too many hours. But now I also spend weekends at the beach house. Sometimes alone, sometimes with family. Last month, I hosted Rachel and her husband for a weekend. We barbecued, drank wine on the deck, talked about everything and nothing. She told me she's pregnant, asked if I'd be the godfather. I said yes. The week after that, Amanda brought her kids for a beach day. We built sandcastles, played in the waves, ordered pizza for dinner. Her daughter told me I was her favorite uncle. It made my whole month. I've learned something important through all of this. For 10 years, I thought justice meant revenge. I thought winning meant watching Marcus lose. But real victory isn't about tearing someone else down. It's about building yourself up so high that their betrayal becomes irrelevant. Marcus stole 10 years from me. He framed me, ruined my reputation, took my company, took my fiancée, tried to take my house. And yeah, he paid for it. He lost everything, the same way I did. But I realized something standing in that courtroom, watching him get sentenced. I didn't feel satisfied. I felt sad. Sad that he'd wasted his life being someone he wasn't. Sad that his need to compete with me had driven him to destroy everything Dad built. Sad that we'd never be brothers again. The best revenge isn't making someone else miserable. It's building a life so good that their opinion of you stops mattering. I built that life. A successful business, financial security, a house on the beach, and slowly, carefully, a relationship with my family that's based on truth instead of lies. Did I win? Yeah, I think I did. But not because Marcus lost. I won because I refused to let his betrayal define me. I won because I built something real from nothing. I won because I chose grace over vengeance when I had the chance to destroy him completely. That's the lesson I carry with me now. When someone betrays you, when they try to tear you down, when they take everything you have a choice. You can spend your life trying to hurt them back, or you can spend your life building something they can never touch. I chose to build. And I'm still building. The beach house is mine. My success is mine. My future is mine. And nobody, not Marcus, not anyone, can ever take that away from me. Sometimes I stand on that deck at sunset, looking out at the ocean, and I think about my father, about what he'd say if he could see me now. I think he'd understand. I think he'd tell me he's proud not because I won some battle with Marcus, but because I became someone worth being proud of. And that's enough. That's more than enough. So if you're going through something similar, if someone has betrayed you, lied about you, tried to destroy you, remember this. Their betrayal says nothing about your worth. Your response to that betrayal says everything about who you are. Choose to build. Choose to grow. Choose to become someone so undeniably successful that their lies become obvious to everyone. And when you finally get your vindication, when the truth finally comes out, choose grace. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. That's how you really win. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever been betrayed by someone close to you? How did you handle it? Did you choose revenge, or did you choose to rebuild? Share your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences might help someone else going through the same thing. If this story resonated with you, if it made you feel something or taught you something, please hit that like button. It helps more people find these stories and maybe find some comfort or inspiration in them. And if you want to hear more stories about overcoming betrayal, rebuilding after loss, and finding justice when everything seems hopeless, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. I share new stories every week, and I promise each one comes from the heart. Finally, if you know someone who needs to hear this message, someone who's struggling with family drama or workplace betrayal or any kind of injustice, share this video with them. Sometimes we all need to be reminded that we're stronger than we think and that the best revenge is a life well lived. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope you take care of yourself, believe in yourself, and never let anyone convince you that you're less than you are. Until next time, keep building your life. And remember that your worth is determined by who you are, not by what others say about you. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one.